Γεια σας. This is a slightly revised version of an essay that I wrote called My Greekness, How It Began. I'm actually re-recording it because of a comment that I made at the end of it, which explains a little bit more about my feelings. The first thing that I'll say is that I never felt myself to be an American. Even in my childhood, I felt like an outsider, but didn't know where I belonged. My interest in Greek things started 11 years ago, in my junior year of high school, when Mrs. Kotas, the first Greek woman I'd ever known, gave me a tape of Laika from the 60s. At that point, I didn't even know how to say Yasu, which means hello. A year later, I found a station called Rebetika at live365.com. The site still exists, but the station no longer does. I was drawn to a certain singer, and after a while I discovered that his name was Marcos Vamvakaris. I eventually bought Bouzouki Pioneer, which featured him, and then Vasilis Tsitsanis, 1936 to 1946. I learned about the Mangias and Rebetes, collecting more music along the way. I then bought a bouzouki, first a tetracordo, because that's all I could find, and then a tricordo. In the meantime, I wanted to learn the language. It took me several years to find Greek screen reading software, but I eventually did and started learning from Kypros.org. My original intent was to be able to translate Rebetika, but Kutsavakika, Mangiko, is so difficult that I just decided to stick with the standard forms. In college, something else found me, religion. My family was never the church-going type, but as a child, Mom wanted me to have my first communion. But the local church and several others rejected me because of my blindness. So Mom told me to follow my heart. For 11 years, I had no religion. Then, in December of 2002, I stumbled across Hellenic polytheism while looking up something else Greek. By February of 2003, I'd become a Hellenic polytheist. That said, I don't hate Christians at all, and was the one who chose to go to a Jesuit college because of their love of education. I'm even a member of a theology group on Facebook where Christianity is often discussed. But I wanted to keep the ancient separate from the modern. I also had a deep love for my English heritage and was trying to learn more about it. I thought that this was where I fit in. But all the time, my love of all things Hellenic kept growing, and so did my disappointment in British politics, to the point that I lost all of my interest in them. This is when I knew that it was merely a cultural thing, and not real patriotism. Finally, in June of 2006, 5 years after that first introduction, I broke down and pledged my undying loyalty to and love for Ελλάδα and no other country. On the 12th of June 2006, my mother found a letter that we thought was from my biological father, Mom adopted me, saying that I was Greek, but we weren't really sure if it was from him or about me. In August of 2009, my brother found our father, and it was then that I learned that, while I do have a few extra ethnicities, I have no Greek blood at all. But by that point, I didn't need it, because I already knew deep inside of me that I was, and still am, an Ellenida. I love Ελλάδα through good and bad, and would give my life for her if necessary. She is sacred and eternal, and it's my belief that we must preserve her for future generations. I also feel more comfortable around Greeks than any other group, including my blind peers. In 2010 or so, I began learning about the revolution of the 21st of April, 1967, so another chapter of my life began. I started taking a great interest in the work of our national saviors, and as I listened to the inspiring speeches of Colonel Papadopoulos, two things were clear to me. First, he was the best speaker of the modern language in our history. Second, without translation, I had no clue what he was saying. But each time I heard him, my heart cried out to learn more, so that I could speak as well as him. And so began the long and frustrating search for a teacher who could take me through the rest of the Demotiki, or Kathamilumeni, the informal language used by everyone, and into Katharevouza, the formal language which he used. And that's how it all started, and why I am the way I am. There are times when I think it's strange, as I'm sure many others do, and there are times when my patriotism causes me pain, as I watch the destruction of the nation I love while living in the one in which I was born. But overall, I wouldn't trade it for anything. That is the main essay, and this is a comment that I added onto it. I admit that it's quite strange that I, who was born in America, so passionately and exclusively love Greece. This is even more true because I haven't been there and lack the blood. But I do know that it's real, and there's nothing I wouldn't do for Lada. I think the difference between me and, say, the Hellenics who fought alongside the Greeks in the War of Independence in 1821 is that they didn't feel themselves to be Hellenics, and were fighting for a romanticized ideal of what the nation should be, based on ancient works. I know that I romanticize, but I also work within a modern framework, and unlike them, I am only loyal to Greece. They went back to their native lands once victory was achieved. Many today may enjoy Hellenic history and culture, mostly ancient, or some modern food and music. Some may even work or live there. But when it comes down to it, again, they don't consider themselves a part of the culture, etc. That said, there are things that I cannot claim, and I wouldn't do so. I can't talk about living there with first-hand experience and say that I have assimilated into the culture, because I haven't had the chance to completely immerse myself in it. But I know what it's like to feel hope, worry, anger, frustration, and a whole mix of emotions that are difficult to put into words, but that I wouldn't wish on any decent person. I know what it's like to live in the country in which I was born, while helplessly watching the one I love destroy itself. I know what it's like to have a roof over my head and food on the table, and then to read about people in Greece committing suicide because they don't want to eat out of the garbage, or because they lost their pensions. I know what it is to cry myself to sleep, to fear civil war, to pray for the military to save us, and to wonder how far things must go before they do, then to somehow find the hope and strength to continue, if only to help spread hope to others. But despite all of that, I wouldn't change a thing about my patriotism. And this is a quote that I wrote. She is the home of my religion, my heart, my joys and sadness. She is the birthplace of my soul. For her I'd give my life. From her I expect nothing but the peace and completion that only she can give me, acceptance and a place to rest my head at the end of the day, and my bones at the end of my life. Having served her in whatever way I can is my only goal. A post of mine from Facebook.